Hey everyone, my name is Danilo Petrovic.
I'm Ilya Marchenko.
I'm Denis Kudla.
I'm Evgeny Donskoy.
I'm Henry Laaksonen.
I'm Peter Torebko, and you're listening to the Game to Love podcast.
Novak Djokovic's visa has been revoked by the Australian government and issued with a letter saying he will be deported.
He tested positive on December 16. On the 1st of January, he'd met the requirements for quarantine-free travel. On January 4, Djokovic announced he was travelling to Australia. He was detained in Melbourne when he arrived the next day.
Players, fans and staff at the Australian Open must be fully vaccinated unless there is a genuine reason why an exemption should be granted.
If that evidence is insufficient, and he'll be on the next plane home.
Czech player Renata Vorochova. She arrived last month and played a warm-up tournament before her visa was cancelled.
We're not angry with the people of Australia. We're actually angry with their politicians.
They are keeping him as a prisoner. It's just not fair. It's not human.
People have been upset about the fact that Novak has come in because of his statements over the past couple of years around vaccination.
He knew the conditions since a lot of months ago.
So whether someone wants to get a vaccine or not, that's completely up to them.
Me that wasn't vaccinated, I wouldn't be getting an exemption.
There should be no special rules for Novak Djokovic at all.
Hey, welcome back, tennis fans. Here we are, another day in Australia, and more news surfaces in the Djokovic saga as he has come out and confessed that he knew that he was positive with COVID-19 and still ended up breaking self-isolation lockdown rules. This is a bit of a crazy one. He has put out a statement. How are you guys doing today?
Yeah, very well. Thanks, Ben. Of course, it's been a busy day with work and trying to cover this story as well. I would say, though, the overriding emotion is anger. I am very angry today. I've tried to keep my calm the last few episodes, trying to see all the information, understand both sides of everything. But ultimately here, him coming forward and confessing what he's done, it's inexcusable. You cannot defend him. I know there's so many Djokovic fans who follow the podcast, and a lot of them follow him blindly in terms of they just are unable to criticize and unable to see it. And that's not all of them, I want to clarify, because there has been so many Djokovic fans messaging the Game to Love thing saying, you know what, we're going to support him. We stand with Djokovic. We believe Australia have made so many mishaps, which they have. However, I cannot defend him in this incident. He knowingly went to that L'Equipe interview and he's confirmed with COVID. For me, it's just it's horrible. He didn't let the journalists know that when he was there. There's also so many question marks around the fact that the day before when he met all them kids at the academy, was he positive then? The affidavit at court sort of claims that he received the result of a positive test, but he didn't see it. It just seems a bit convenient to me. What do you think, John?
I mean, to be honest with you, when it comes to sort of loyalty and faith and obviously blind loyalty, I always think of this question, which is, what would it take to change your mind? Now, I don't care if the topic is Djokovic and his story, if you like, or if it's Brexit, or if you're Republican or Democrat, or if you think the earth is flat. Okay, I don't care what it is. We should always ask ourselves, or should ask the question, what would it take to change your mind? Now, the answer should always be evidence. Evidence should change our mind on any of the above, including whether the earth is a globe or not. When the answer, though, is nothing will change my mind, well, then that conversation is over with that individual person. Unfortunately, we're often in that situation where, nothing will change their mind. And so therefore, with that individual at least, move on, because nothing's going to change their mind. But if you want to deal with evidence, then, well, we're going to be looking at the evidence today, aren't we, Ben and JG?
Yeah, we are. I think there's no better place to start here than the man himself had to put out a statement. I mean, he couldn't leave it any longer because there's so many people. There's a rumor mill spinning, and the more and more people talk and he hasn't said anything, the more and more people are just going to build up the other case against him, and he needs to try and get in there first just to set the facts straight. I'm sure this has been very well written as well. I've read through it all once already. It seems like it is very, very nicely put.
I just want to add to that. I think the reason he did the statement was to sort of get the pressure off his family. The family have been receiving so many questions, and ultimately, a lot of them questions can only be answered by the man himself. So he's had to sort of come out in a way to sort of protect his family from all of the questions. So for that, I respect him for doing that. But what he says in the statement, I think he's trying to make it sound as if there's misinformation and so many other things. But really, he is the one to blame. And it's all well and good apologising now, but I don't think an apology is good enough. Who do you think you are?
His family's in
COVID.
His family's involvement in this, though, is kind of from them. It's them who's going outside the parliament giving rousing speeches. So although you're right, if there's certain things that are going, we obviously don't condone that, of course. But, if I go out on the street today and give a rousing speech with a microphone and get 100 people around me, well, I'm going to get some people disagreeing with what I'm saying. And anyway, let's get to the statement.
Yeah, let's get to the statement. Let's get it up on the screen. This was just Jose Morgado, friend of the podcast, just saying a very long statement from Novak Djokovic on his Instagram. And let's have a quick look through it. He says he only knew about he was positive after the kids' event, and confirms that he gave L'Equipe interview. He gave knowing that he had COVID and regrets the decision. And for me, just before we start reading, I've just got to say the one word that springs to mind is irresponsible. And that's the one thing that I've just been going over in my mind is irresponsibility from somebody of such a high stature. But let's go through let's go through the statement that he's put out anyway on here. Do you want me to read it? Or
yeah, you can.
Okay. So I want to address the continuing misinformation about my activities and attendance at events in December in the lead up to my positive PCR COVID test result.
Ben, can we stop at this point just
Sure.
quickly? I would probably do each paragraph.
Yeah. Go for it.
In the lead up to his positive PCR test, what's he talking about? I don't know what misinformation there's been in the lead up. Were we talking about his activities on the 10th of December, on the 1st? No, we're all focusing on the 48 hours after the positive test result. That's what we're really focusing on.
Agreed.
There's no comment about the lead up. So I don't know what he's talking about there. He's actually adding to the misinformation, in my opinion, with that paragraph.
Okay.
Yeah. And I want to also clarify as well. I think the misinformation is not really been around Djokovic. I feel a lot of the misinformation has been from Tennis Australia, been from the authorities, the federal, the government, the Victorian government. They're the ones with all of the misinformation. He was under the assumption he can get an exemption by going there, considering he's had COVID. He's got to the board and they're saying that's no longer valid and that you're not going to accept an exemption. This is where all the misinformation has been.
Yeah.
Yeah,
you can continue, Ben.
Okay, yeah. This is misinformation which needs to be corrected, particularly in the interest of alleviating broader concern in the community about my presence in Australia and to address matters which are very hurtful and concerning to my family.
So there's two parts there, and then we'll look at the second part, if you like, first with the very hurtful and concerning to his family.
Yes.
100% great that he puts out that comment, and I have no problem with that. I highlighted some of the issues regarding the rousing speech that they gave in Serbia, but in general, absolutely fine. Definitely get that, and I understand that he wants to get that out there. But let's go to the first half. Alleviating broader concern in the community about my presence in Australia. Well, I think we're going to add to that concern as we go through this statement when he says what he did in the 48 hours after his positive test. So I don't think he's alleviating concern. He's not alleviated concern at any point in the last 7 days, really.
Let's ask the Australians. I'm sure they'll tell you if they feel alleviated after this statement.
Yeah.
Well, that's the thing. Right, moving on to the next section. This one, let me just zoom out a bit so we can get it all in. I want to emphasize that I have tried very hard to ensure the safety of everyone and my compliance with testing obligations.
JG, have you got something to say about that? Because I've got something to say.
No, you can speak, John.
Okay. That's not true. I have tried very hard to ensure the safety of everyone. Well, if you do that, you take your PCR test on the 16th of December, you stay home until you get your result, and you don't hang out. You don't then find out your result 7 hours later, which is what the affidavit proves. So we'll also come to that in a minute, even though he says he didn't know on the 17th. One is a lie. Either he lied in his affidavit or he's lying now. I suspect it's probably the latter. And then finally, he also did a photo shoot, and okay, he was wearing a mask and we're fine, but you don't leave your apartment. If you are trying very hard to ensure the safety of everyone, I'd love to know what it is when he's not trying hard.
Yeah.
Because if he was trying hard, by the way, he would have got vaccinated and he'd be in Australia right now with no problems. If he's not trying hard, the next best thing he can do is stay home.
John, sorry, I just wanted to say it for me, I don't really understand. Like it's not very hard, surely. If you know you are trying to get yourself to the Australian Open, a country with the strictest border controls in place, and you've been at an event, which he says in the next paragraph, on the 14th, where people tested positive. This has got to be you've got to be like alarm bells ringing right now, thinking, oh my God, I've just tested positive. Or well, I've just been around people who've tested positive. I'm going to take this test, stay at home, get the result, and then hopefully I can go out after that. Surely that's the mindset you go in, isn't it?
Yeah.
I don't know. That's just, for me, that would make perfect sense anyway.
Yeah, if he was trying, you went to that basketball match, you realised the repercussions of it because people were testing positive. He then took a test. He must have had something in his mind thinking, there's a chance I could have it. He got the test result back about 7 hours later, or 8 hours, was it? And from then, I just don't believe that he didn't look at it until the next day. So, like, I'm even going to go further. I don't even know about the next day when he was with all them kids. Was he positive then? Of course, we know he was. Did he know he was positive then? I think he probably did as well.
Yeah.
We're going to see it from this statement.
It's very convenient for him to say, oh, I didn't know then.
He's trying to...
It's an easy way out.
He's trying to at least get that out there.
He's put himself in a web of lies, and he doesn't really know how to get out of them because nothing's really adding up with all the dates and the times. He's done all right up until this point. I've given him the benefit of the doubt with a lot of things. I've been as fair as I possibly can. We attended the trial. We listened to the trial. We didn't understand everything. We've been following the story ever since. Ultimately, Djokovic has lied on several occasions. I still don't want to take it away from the fact that the Australian government are still massively to blame for this whole confusion of which we're in. And all these grey areas is because of them. They didn't make the rules straight from the beginning. They allowed this whole rule to be able to apply for an exemption. And then they retracted it. We don't know what's going on with that. They've created such a mess. And they're the ones who are going to come out worse than anyone. But I think Djokovic is a close second now. And he's getting closer and closer because he's not done himself any favours throughout.
Yeah,
he's filled out the forms wrong. Let's talk about the deportation forms as well. He's filled them out incorrectly.
I mean, it's littered with, and this is the problem when it's starting to get littered with inconsistencies everywhere, and then you're having to back up another thing that was wrong. This is why I don't understand. If you're a professional sports star and you are the top of the game, this goes for everything. When you're in that position, you have like a responsibility to take certain actions being in that role. And that goes across. If you're like going into, like, let's say, or it can be tennis. It could be, I'm going to compare it to, say, like boxing or fighting or something like that. You're accountable for everything that goes into your body that you eat. If you take one thing off somebody else and you eat and you test positive for a drug, guess what? You're going to lose. You're not going to be able to fight. You're not going to be able to do something like that. I'm sure he's a very as soon as he went into that hotel, he wanted all of his food. Well, he doesn't know what he's getting. Yes, this is the same thing. The same responsibility goes with staying in just in case you have COVID. That's it. It's the same responsibility. You're that high in the game. And you're not exempt from that. I don't know.
Somebody who's so fastidious with their health that every single thing that he ingests, he's very careful about. And that's completely right. And he's a top sportsman as a result. Yep. To then think that he's taking COVID tests and taking a PCR test and then completely abandoning all of that thought process and wandering around and meeting kids and doing presentations without realizing the result of his COVID test. Well, I think you're living on a different planet if you believe those two stories. If you want to read the next paragraph, by the way, 'cause I think there's some,
I will.
some good
Yeah,
stuff
yeah.
in
This
here.
one explains a little bit why he was going around anyway. He said, I attended a basketball game in Belgrade on the 14th of December, after which it was reported that a number of people tested positive with COVID. Despite having no COVID symptoms, I took a rapid antigen test on the 16th of December, which was negative. And out of an abundance of caution, also took an official approved PCR test on the same day. Okay, brilliant.
Key line, though. Key line there. I think we all know what the key line is, out of an abundance of caution. Now, on one side, that seems very sensible, very careful. And that's great that he did the antigen test. That came back negative, but he didn't just rely on that because we know that the antigen is not as accurate as the PCR. So out of an abundance of caution, great, takes the PCR test. Well, what happened to the caution in the 48 hours that followed? Whether, from the minute he takes
went
that
out the
test,
window because there was no caution. He continued as normal.
Right. At 1 p.m., 5 minutes past 1, if we want to be 100% accurate, he takes that PCR test, okay, out of an abundance of caution. Now, in the next 7 hours from that moment to the test result, that abundance of caution, if we believe what he's saying there, needs to stay isolated at home. The abundance of caution is checking your emails constantly. And I know that we've got individuals here that are managed by the people, but as soon as his management are getting that test result, they're on the phone to him. Where are you? What are you doing? You need to be at home right now. So you need to stay home as well for the next 7 days or however long that period happens to be. Abundance of caution, abundance of carelessness.
Yeah. Let's move on to the next part of the statement.
Right.
So the next day, I attended a tennis event in Belgrade to present awards to children and took a rapid antigen test before going to the event, and it was negative.
It's not good enough. We know that they're not.
I'm actually now struggling to believe from this moment onwards. I don't know. I don't know if he's telling the truth. Maybe he is. Maybe he's not.
But even if we know, and this is where I come, like the abundance of caution thing again, and being that top sports star that doesn't want to have all of this circling around you. You don't need to leave the house. Didn't need to go anywhere. Doesn't need to do anything. You could just stay in. It doesn't need to go out. I just don't understand why would you take that test and go, oh, it says it's fine. We've had so many people say these give false positives or false negatives, or the PCR is the only one you can really trust. Just wait for the result.
The thing that what really annoys me is, does he really think this wasn't going to catch up on him? Him going to Australia, say if he got through the border and everything was fine there with his exemption and played, there's going to always be so many people interested and wondering about his exemption. It would have been investigated, I'm sure. No doubts about it. It was always going to come to light. A bit like Boris Johnson in the UK, having a party in his garden with 30 people. What kind of idiot is he? Like,
well,
it was always going to come out, was it not?
Yeah. I mean, but I think the thing is when you're that dialed in, whether it be a politician or a sports person, sometimes you're almost detached from reality. And I think maybe some of this Djokovic believes. Maybe he believes it himself, but that's more difficult for us to believe.
Well, we've got Hit God here in the super chat saying negative on lateral flow means low viral load. If you do it properly, meaning he shouldn't be infectious, although he may be positive on PCR. Listen, we know about the test. As Ben said, I echo what he said. The lateral flow tests are not that accurate. They really are not. You can have a few and they can be positive, negative, positive, negative. We don't know. The whole thing,
they're an indication.
They're an indication. The whole thing, the PCR could have still been a false positive. Let's be honest. He was asymptomatic. He didn't have any symptoms. But regardless of that, the rules we all have to follow as human beings, if you test positive, you have to isolate. Whether you've actually got it or not, it's another matter. He took a test, tested positive. You've got to isolate. You've got to follow the rules like everyone else does.
To be honest with you,
why is he different? Why is he above the rules?
To be honest with you, from 1:05 on the 16th of December, Serbian time, that's the moment he has to isolate. From that moment onwards, now. You'll get some people that maybe say, yeah, but he's got this commitment to children, and he's got this commitment to the journalist. You know what? You can make up for that. You can say, listen, I'm so sorry. I cannot attend this event tomorrow. John. I cannot do this journalist. But you can make up for it by, doing it another time.
Well, surely for his own peace of mind, if anything, just thinking like, do you know what? There's even if there's 1% chance I might have it, I may as well just stay home because it's not worth the ramifications, really, is it? If I go out and I find out I've got it, surely that's the right mindset to be in.
There's still more questions as well. This is why nothing adds up for me, and why it's really hard to believe him. Because why did he file for an exemption before he got COVID anyway?
Yeah, I know.
So how does that make sense? You can't. None of this adds up. You've got to be
messy.
You've got to be honest. Yeah, I understand. There's so many Djokovic fans who want to defend him, and don't get me wrong, I'm not his biggest fan, but I've tried my best to defend him because we would love to see the best player in the world play at the Australian Open, the 9-time champ, going for 21 Grand Slams, going for 10 Australian Opens. It'd been amazing to see him there, but the timelines don't add up. He applied for an exemption, medical exemption, before he even got COVID. Was he planning on getting vaccinated? I'm pretty sure he wasn't. Let's be honest.
I put out a tweet of the day, which I've just highlighted in the private chat, but I think we should still focus on the statement for now. But I put out a tweet of the day, I think it was 3 days ago. I said, in November, 1 month before allegedly getting COVID, Djokovic applied for his visa. At that point, on what basis did Djokovic expect to be allowed to enter Australia? Was he thinking about getting double vaxxed? And yet 2 weeks before going, still not vaccinated with even one jab, he contracted COVID. So... yeah, I mean, yeah. But anyway, let's continue with the statement.
In theory, he must be very pleased that he got it because that allowed him to get the exemption, right? Yeah. But then it sort of begs the question:
did he spend the next 6 weeks trying to get it? Did he spend the next from November?
I don't think so. I don't think that's the case. But did he then? Is the whole document of him getting COVID, which was done by the Serbian sort of body? I'm not sure exactly who produced it, who did the PCR. Is that not real? Is that a fake test? We've seen so many things. We're going to investigate that later on. But let's just read this. I was asymptomatic and felt good, and I had not received the notification of a positive PCR test result until after that event. Talking about the event where he presented awards with children.
Asymptomatic felt good, irrelevant. Just I don't even know why he's adding that to his statement. It's the least relevant thing in the entire statement, to be honest with you. Yeah, I had not received the notification of a positive. I don't believe him. Not compared to, because he's either lying here or he's lying in his affidavit, one of the two. Or even if he didn't, even if he hadn't read it, well, we're also suggesting that if his team are in charge of this, then none of his team. I don't believe it. And if you believe this, well, good luck.
You've got 12 travel 21 saying, sorry, Ben, very convenient timing. Davis Cup finished on the 5th of December, so positive on the 16th. Did not disrupt his 2021 season at all and got it before the Australian Open entry deadline. It just couldn't have been a better time to get COVID. It seems too convenient, right?
Let me tell you another thing regarding that date. That date will also go as far as French Open there's so many ifs I know, but if the French Open apply a similar kind of 6-month period, it'll finish on the 16th of June. I think the French Open finals on the 10th. So we've got this unbelievable window here that he's exploited.
If Djokovic could have picked a date to get COVID, it's the best date he could have possibly picked. Let's move on to the last bit. The next day, on the 18th of December, I was at my tennis center in Belgrade to fulfill a long-standing commitment for a L'Equipe interview and photo shoot. Long-standing.
I cancelled all other events. I'd love to know what the events were that he cancelled. Can somebody come forward? I'm surprised that in the 12 hours, or how many hours ago was this statement? I don't know, 12 hours ago. But I'd love to hear from somebody. If I had an event planned with him that day, I would have mentioned it somewhere. I would have put a tweet out saying, yeah, it's true. I had a meeting with Djokovic that day and he did cancel. I've not heard from anyone as yet to say that. So I don't know if that's true.
I think that's a minor detail you're focusing on, though, John.
Yeah, I agree.
Means anything, really.
Okay, yeah, it's irrelevant. To fulfill a long-standing commitment, come on.
No.
I want everybody to realise as well here, just so that we sort of clarify what we're doing in this podcast right now. People will probably think, like, listening to us saying, oh, you're so anti-Djokovic. We're not anti-Djokovic because we all respect him as a tennis player. I've been trying to believe everything that he's been saying the whole way through, but the more things that come out, it's just all getting tangled with, like, it does nothing make sense anymore.
We keep trying. We keep trying to see every single point of view. I listen to the people in the live chat. I listen to so many different contrasting opinions and ultimately try and present the facts as we have it. This is a factual statement he's made. Whether you believe it or not, it's another matter. The thing is, there's so many things that don't add up. It's becoming really indefendable. And we've had a lot of Djokovic fans come forward, no other than Gene, of course, someone who we've had on the podcast from the beginning. Shout out to you, one of our patrons.
Cheers for the super chat.
And I'm just reading out now. He said, "I'm a Nole fan, but I'm very disappointed with the irresponsible behaviour. Only fair to deport him." And that is strong words. I did never think we'd ever hear that from Gene.
Wow, Gene.
So yeah, that's I think that's pretty telling of the situation right now. I've seen some of the real hardcore Djokovic fans even finding it difficult. And listen, let's not take too much away from Djokovic as a man. He is still an incredible tennis player, and what he's done on the court, not many people have ever been able to match. He's arguably the greatest to ever do it. But off the court, it's just there's something missing. He needs to hire a new PR team to start with.
Yeah, don't let anybody get this, what we're talking about on this podcast, analysing his statement with our views on his vaccination status. And we're talking about the rules of him getting into the country, and that's it. We're not talking about anything else. We're not saying he should be vaxxed, shouldn't be vaxxed. We're just talking about whether he should be allowed into Australia based upon the facts he's given.
And I would like to emphasise on that, Ben, we all believe in the freedom of choice. You have the freedom of your own body to decide whether you want to be vaccinated or not. We're not saying it should be mandated. Just like Tennis Sangren, he didn't want to be vaccinated and he stayed at home. That's fine.
Exactly. So anyway,
let's move
on to the next part of it. Right. And this is the final part. I felt obliged to go ahead and conduct the L'Equipe interview as I didn't want to let the journalist down. But I did ensure I socially distanced and wore a mask except when my photograph was being taken.
That has been verified by the journalist. The second part of that, he's also verified, saying, yeah, that's true. We did social distance and he did wear a mask at all times except for the photo.
And on top of that, the journalist has come out and said he tested negative. So he didn't contract COVID from Djokovic.
Right.
I've got an idea as well. I just want to put to you guys. Would the best thing to do now is do an antibody test on Djokovic to prove whether he had COVID the last 6 months?
Yeah, you're not gonna get any success with that.
Would that not be a way to actually find out if he's telling the truth? He had COVID. He could easily just prove it by doing an antibody test, right?
You think so?
Yeah. Good luck with that.
Okay. Just another idea I'm putting out there on the podcast.
Yeah.
Have you read the last bit, Ben?
Not yet.
So while I went home after the interview to isolate for the required period, on reflection, this was an error of judgment, and I accept that I should have rescheduled this commitment. It's not just an error of judgment, it is also against the law. I believe the Serbian prime minister has come out and spoken about it. There will be punishment to Djokovic. We can see on the most severe cases, it could be up to 3 years in jail. That's not going to happen. But most likely, there will be some kind of fine given to Djokovic because he disobeyed the law in Serbia.
There you go.
That's the statement. So should we move on? And it's probably fitting. We'll go on to Karen Sweeney, who's been sort of the pinnacle of information for this case. And just echoing, saying that he broke Serbia's COVID-19 rules after admitting in his statement that he did. And the Prime Minister, there you go, Anna, I'm going to butcher this name now, Brnabic, and told the BBC going out after a positive result was a clear breach. So
just regarding his statement, there is a second part to that statement. We don't need to focus on it too much, but basically the gist of the second part of his statement is that he's not going to be talking about this anymore, at least during the process. Again, I think good luck with that, Mr. Djokovic. That you might not want to talk about it, but if journalists are doing their job, they will ask you about it. And I also suggested that we might be seeing a few more press conferences adjourned in the near future.
Oh, it's such a shame, though, really. I know we've been covering it all, but wouldn't you just love it to all go away and not have to non-stop talk about it? Now, for me, for as long as Djokovic plays, everyone's always going to have this in the back of their mind. It's something which he can't really escape. Whether or not he plays the Australian Open or not, this whole incident was going to, I feel, be attached to his legacy. And it's not a nice thing to have sort of trailing around behind you the whole time. One of our patrons here and member, Liam Holdaway, saying, these are only the things we know about as well. I see parallels with Boris. Two people in power, pretty famous individuals. And ultimately, it just seems, I can understand what his point. I do see parallels myself. And for me, it makes me a bit upset.
Yeah, it's like the one rule for one, another one for everybody else, which Boris is sort of proving in the UK right now, and everybody is very unhappy with him.
Regarding his legacy, I did see a tweet the other day, which is that I will always remember Roger Federer for his legendary consistency, Rafa Nadal for his clay court mastery, Andy Murray for his heart and soul and prowess, and Novak Djokovic for visiting Australia unvaccinated during COVID-19 and turning it into a miserable and unnecessary show.
Yeah, I think he's going to be remembered for a lot more than just that. But it's going to be he is the greatest. I think right now in terms of playing.
Definitely.
As much as I don't want to admit it, he is just something to behold on court. A real
so good,
amazing sportsman, and he does so many positive things as well for charities and so many other people, and helping a lot of sort of other tennis players as well. But it's not. Listen, he can do all of that, but this is something which he's done wrong. And you have to call him out. When he does something good, you say, great. When he does something bad, you have to say, hold your hands up. You've made up a massive, massive mistake here. We've got King Hartley here from Australia saying there is still no concrete proof of any intentional wrongdoing. He is being hunted down because he exposed the ridiculousness of Australia's rules. One thing you need to understand, I can agree with you. I think some of the Australia's rules are ridiculous. They don't seem to be clear. No. There's no set rules which everyone follows. It seems to be there's loopholes and all sorts in it. That's right. I agree. But then Djokovic is wrong with what he's done as well. Both can be correct.
Yeah.
Yeah. At the end of the day, I mean, we can always take it all the way back to just the Australian government and all the rules. I mean, this is what's caused all of this problem in the first place, and we're now trying to find, or he's scraping around trying to find answers to all the questions they're now posing to him after thinking he could just step in the country as soon as he touched down.
We've got another member here, KRC Gaming, and he's saying Djokovic has diplomatic passport, so he can only be prosecuted in Serbia. So he has immunity in Australia from law. Get your facts straight. Whether he will be prosecuted in Serbia is only a wishful dream.
I know what they're referring to there. So we were talking about his misdemeanor in Serbia. Yeah, we're not asking or suggesting that the Australian government should come down on him for
obviously
that.
Obviously
not. Yeah.
Just to clarify that, John.
Yeah. That's obviously they're not going to have any jurisdiction to be able to do anything about what he did in Serbia. It's just if he touches back down in Serbia, he might have to speak to the Prime Minister about what went on.
No, I'm sure there will be some kind of backlash from the Prime Minister of Serbia for sure.
We'll see. A little tap on the wrist, maybe. Who knows?
No, I think it's going to be more severe. I think they're going to have to, if I'm honest, because they're pretty. The Prime Minister, as far as I know, is pretty pro-vaccine. And she was saying how the importance of getting people vaccinated. So
I spoke to a friend of mine, actually a Serbian friend of mine yesterday, about the vaccination situation in Serbia. And Serbia, at the beginning of the vaccine rollout about a year ago, really made some really good and very quick progress, one of the fastest in Europe, actually. But then they reached 50%, and that's where they're at now. And they can't convince the other 50% to get vaccinated. And that's where Serbia's at. They had this very quick rollout, and they really made it quite quick and available to citizens, unlike, say, here in Germany, which was a bit slow at the beginning of the vaccine rollout. But unfortunately, they've hit a ceiling where 50% of the country are extremely reluctant to get vaccinated.
We've got Megs Carpentry, one of our top tippers of the month, saying, yes, he should have gone to the interview without knowing the more official, accurate test. No, he shouldn't have, I'm assuming.
Yeah.
Or should have not gone. Apologies. He took a risk that I would be negative. With the 2 negative tests he got, he thought he was still neg.
I just think it's
just messy.
It's an unnecessary. It's an unnecessary risk. That's the one thing. Why would you be risking at such a pivotal time in the tennis calendar where you know you've got to go to Australia? There's no need to risk anything. You could just stay at home. I repeat, you could just stay at home, cancel everything.
Yeah. Right. Let's move on to the next one. So the next one here, Paul Sakal, saying in this post, Djokovic claims he learned of his positive test result after the children's tennis event, has attended maskless on the 17th. But he's sworn court affidavit said he was tested and diagnosed on the 16th, with positive result being returned about 8 p.m. that evening.
Yeah.
Okay, more of the same. Should we keep going through them?
Yeah.
This one I think was interesting. Obviously, Karen Sweeney pointing out some of the Serbian regulations. The maximum penalty for breaching Serbian health regulations is 3 years in prison. And I think you touched on that earlier, John.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I mean, I don't see.
It's not going to happen, is it?
I don't see him getting 3 years in prison if he just never goes back to Serbia ever again. And
that would be too much for sure. I think it's going to be more likely just a fine.
Yeah. Right, on to the next one. This one's a very interesting one, actually. Like, it's a different perspective and one way to look at it. Please imagine the reaction if the roles were reversed and a journalist, knowingly COVID positive, keeping it a secret, had met with Novak Djokovic.
I think that's what really affects me the most. The fact that he went there and didn't have the decency to at least tell them that he was COVID positive. Even if he did it on a hush-hush, like, I'm going to do this thing for you. Don't say anything. Don't make a big deal. But I do have COVID. Just thought you should know that. Out of common decency, if he did that, I'd have a little bit more respect for him. But he kept it completely quiet. I wouldn't have that much respect. It's wrong. Whatever way you dress it up, but...
Can you imagine the outrage if anyone, journalist or from another profession, knowingly had COVID? Can you imagine the outrage? Let's just say it's your favorite football player, or if it's your favorite, other sports star, or even just your favorite actor. But let's take a sports person. If you're a Djokovic fan and you knew that someone knowingly had COVID, wanted to meet him, well, can you imagine?
Well, I'm going to go to this comment in the live chat because I don't agree with this at all. Saying he is not selfish. He's just naive and a little dumb. That is absolute rubbish. I'm sorry. If you think Novak Djokovic is dumb and he's in the position that he's in, come on. I'm not having that.
I think they're fishing, Ben.
I think so, but
they
come
caught
on.
you.
I did, but
they just caught a wild Ben there.
Well done.
Ben's flopping around the stream right now.
I am. You got me on the hook. I'm there. Yeah, I don't think you can call him because that's just an insult to his intelligence.
He's an extremely intelligent man. I'd put him up there as one of the most intelligent guys
very
on tour.
Intelligent guy. Come on. Have you not heard the guy speak? The guy speaks about 8 languages for crying out loud.
Sure.
Come on.
Yeah. Right, let's
move on. Right. There we go. Breaking. No decision on Djokovic visa today. And then in quotations, Mr. Djokovic's lawyers have recently provided lengthy further submissions and supporting documentation said to be relevant to the possible cancellation of Mr. Djokovic's visa. This will affect the time frame.
Yeah, and like John said at the beginning, we was expecting today to come on here with an answer. It's going to be delayed further. And we spoke about on the last one. I'm interested to see if you two still agree with what you said yesterday. The longer this goes on, do you think it's better for Djokovic or not? I feel like I was on the side of the longer it goes on, the worse it is for him. I feel like they're bolstering their case and getting as much information as possible. But would you still agree with what you said yesterday, that it's better for him?
I mean, when I say better for him, I don't believe it's better for his tennis or his personality. I just mean the likelihood of the visa cancellation, I think, diminishes with every day that passes. But that's a hunch really, or a feeling, and I've got many of those wrong. But I don't see them hauling him off the tennis court midway through the tournament. So I thought that within hours of the court case occurring, whether that would occur, the cancellation, as this though suggests. There's a lot of processes they want to go through. But again, I still think that this tweet errs a bit more towards, the lawyers are onto this and the lawyers have got more stuff. And I still think that the mistake he made with his travel, form, I think there's ways out of that for him, perhaps. And I think, again, the longer this goes on, I just erred slightly more to the likelihood of him starting the Australian Open and finishing it.
Well, talking about starting the Australian Open, the draw for it's going to be tomorrow, I believe.
Yeah.
Which means they're kind of running out of time. Australia, as much as they're bolstering together a case, and I know here there's obviously Djokovic's lawyers putting further submissions in as well. It would be great if they can just get this sorted one way or another. Of course, I would love to see Djokovic play the Australian Open, but I must admit that I'm kind of yesterday I was sort of 20%. I've been slowly climbing up the percentages. Now I'm probably edging more on the side that he's going to be deported than stay, if I'm honest. Or if not, I think he should be, maybe, yeah. I really do.
Well, I think I'm taking a bit of a turnaround on...
I've been turning around every single one we do of these. It just gets worse and worse, and the lies keep stacking up. and it's getting to the point you cannot defend him anymore. You just can't.
Well, if they get the same... Just sorry, mate. I was going to say, if they get the same judge, like imagine, like if they go back. Remember, this is the judge that was very, very fair on Djokovic and just looked into sort of his situation, like the situational things that happened within him arriving to Australia, and sort of thought he was unfairly treated based upon the situation he was put in. Is he going to see it in the exact opposite way if they say he put other people in another situation from his own carelessness? And that's the thing that we need to see. Like, is it going to be fair for both sides? Are they going to see him in the wrongdoing as well? I don't know.
My understanding, though, is that, I mean, that whole case was just focused on, should his visa have been cancelled? Was he treated fairly by the Australian Border Force? And the judge was fairly unequivocal in that he shouldn't have had his visa cancelled at that point. And he was also badly treated by the... So, but focusing on that, and that's...
He was terribly treated, by the way. I agree. I've read the whole transcript of him at border control. They rushed him. It wasn't good. They made a complete mess, Australia. They're still the worst out of all of this. Still, I still have to say that. I need to reiterate that every single podcast. What Australia have done with this mess is just globally embarrassing for them, quite frankly. I think all nations, listen, we can't speak too much because we've got Boris Johnson doing all sorts here. But looking over at Australia, I feel like they're, well, if not close second, up there, probably eclipsing Boris right now.
What more balls ups can they do? They got another day to make another one if they fancy it. So we'll just have to wait and see. Shall I move on to the next tweet?
Yeah.
Right. This one. This is just more reiterating of the statement that was put out there from Karen Sweeney. Okay. Move on to the next one. This one's from the New York Times.
I don't think we went through the whole statement of Djokovic, did we, John?
No, there is a second part which I touched on where he basically says this is the end of the matter for now and I won't be talking about it anymore. There was
Did he not talk about the travel document as well?
Yes, he did in the second part of that statement. That's true. He did.
That's an important bit to sort of speak about. I would like to touch on that.
If you go back to the first tweet from Jose Morgado, I think his name is.
Yeah, I've got it.
Go back to his tweet. There's two tweets, I think. One that we focused on, and if you go to his second part of his thread.
This is a good bit here. So on the issue of my travel declaration, this was submitted by my support team on my behalf. As I told immigration officials on my arrival, and my agent sincerely apologizes for the administrative mistake in ticking the incorrect box about my previous travel before coming to Australia. I'm going to leave it there and over to you, John.
Yeah, I mean, actually, this is something that his lawyers perhaps are trying to address as well with that other tweet or whatever we looked at, the other post we saw, where his the reason it's going into a third day or since the trial occurred on Monday is because they want to address this, and perhaps it's even the wording. I have some sympathy actually on this because it does say something along the lines of, will you travel in the 14 days prior to? I mean.
Or after arriving,
yeah,
well,
or after, or in the, will you? So, I don't know. I'm not saying that. What of course is that the thing is again is this is also a bit vague, and I've seen examples where, depending on who you are and what kind of mistake you've made, some people have been banned from countries for 10 years for making this kind of mistake, or certainly in the UK it's occurred. So I think, but it just depends on so many things and up to the jurisdiction or the individual person who wants to come down hard or otherwise on the individual who made that mistake.
I think this is a prime. Sorry, John. I think this is a prime example of where there's a rule in place where we've seen in the past there can be severe repercussions of it, but maybe we don't necessarily agree that it should be that strict as what it is. But if you look at previous examples of people who, if you get this wrong, you can be in a lot of trouble. Yeah. Whether we think that's right or not is another matter. I'm not sure if it should be. It could be a pretty genuine mistake which his team's made. But saying that, it's still a massive mistake to make. Surely you get that right. And another big telling point in this, if you was to tick yes, I have confirmed, it wouldn't mean you're not allowed to go. They just want to know where you went.
I just find it so hard to believe that we've got one of the guy who's probably the best tennis player of all time, with the most prize money, the super intelligent, with the team of the best lawyers probably around, and probably a team of the best medical people around, and they can't fill out a form correctly. And they don't look through it, and it doesn't get double checked and checked again and say, "Did you tick that one?" It says no, but have you actually, or should we tick yes and actually say where you've been or any? How about we check that? Just tick through it, did they? All right, let's send that off. Have you checked it now?
By the way, well, look at this. We are living in challenging times in a global pandemic, and sometimes these mistakes can occur. Well, I'll tell you what. Next time I'm speeding in my car, I'll use that as an excuse. I'm sorry, officer, but we're living in challenging times, and sometimes mistakes can occur.
Yeah,
I don't know.
That's embarrassing. Should never have written
silly.
that. KRC Gaming wants his super chat written out, and he is a member as well, so it's only fair. He's saying, nah, if he wins his 10th championship, he will be welcomed as a hero. It doesn't matter what he did. He is revered as God, revered as a god of tennis in our country. There will be riots if our prime minister does anything.
Well, that's possible as well. Yeah, it's a good point because I think there's going to be riots whichever way it goes, to be honest. So I think they've messed it up.
There will be some unrest in Serbia, though, against the prime minister if he cracks down. But maybe there will be the other way as well. But let's find out and wait for that. Did we read the last little bit?
No,
We've got here. The last bit is today. My team has provided additional information to the Australian government to clarify this matter. So they have put forward further documentation to try and defend him.
Yeah. And then we're on to the final part. It says, while I felt it was important to address and clarify misinformation, I will not be making any further comment out of the utmost respect for the Australian government and their authorities and the current process. So at least that's a fair statement. I mean,
and then he's saying it is always an honour and a privilege to play in the Australian Open. The Australian Open is much loved by players, fans, and the community, not just in Victoria and Australia, but around the globe. And I just want to have the opportunity to compete against the very best players in the world and perform before one of the best crowds in the world.
Yeah, I want to see it. If he plays, I still want to watch him play. Don't get me wrong. I hate all this dark cloud all over everything.
Yeah, we've got King Hartley here saying Renata Varakova was allowed in the country and competed with the same exemption. She was deported after Djokovic was targeted. Isn't this interesting? Yeah. I agree. It's not a good look. And yet again, you've got to blame the Aussie government here. They've made a massive, massive mistake. And that's why, ultimately, there's so many of these little hiccups they made along the way. That's why the judge he decided that Djokovic won the case. He confirmed. He concluded Djokovic won the case based off all of these hiccups made.
Yeah, and then what happens with her? Do they fly her back in again? Say, oh, sorry about that. Didn't mean to kick you out.
I think she just sort of got tired of it probably and just thought, I'm not going to go through what Djokovic has been through the last 7 days.
Yeah,
well, I doubt she'd even have the same treatment, to be honest. That's the thing. It's right. I've moved through. This was, I think we just had that one. Now, this one was João Sousa, which is a Portuguese tennis player on the Djokovic saga. I respect that he fights for what he believes, and I can be empathetic with what he's going through in Australia. But it's a bit selfish from him to arrive here as the only player unvaccinated. It's tough for us players to accept that.
Yeah, I know there was so much talk at the beginning that there was going to be a few other people with these medical exemptions, and there was other players who aren't vaccinated. It seems to me it's just him, right, who's not vaccinated, who's there on the men's side, certainly.
Now with this obviously deportation of the Czech doubles girl, yeah.
Anyway, I don't know how
just
much
happens
more
to be the world number one.
It's just, I'm sure there's a lot of other players who aren't speaking out who feel the same way. That people are probably scared. They don't want they don't want the awkwardness of having to see him again at another tournament, and they hear the knowledge that they spoke out against him. And
I do want to add as well that there has been some support from other players. I saw Venus Williams. She was supporting him.
Pospisil, of course, has been adamant in his support. I know Tennis Sanguine's not there, but no, there's probably half the tour are fairly sympathetic to his plight, or if not, much more stronger than that.
Yeah, it just seems to be very divided at the moment, the whole tennis world on this issue.
Very.
Let's move on.
Right. Oh, sorry, I didn't zoom in on that. Oh, it's the same one. Apologies. Must have pulled it up twice. This one, this was behind the scenes, wasn't it, of the news? Which news station was it? I can't remember, but they got recorded after their news broadcast.
7 something, is it?
I can't remember, but
I forget what it's called. Channel 7. I'm not sure.
Channel 7, yeah.
I think the two news anchors. I don't have their names to hand, but they were just recorded saying, Novak Djokovic is a lying sneaky arsehole. And then he's like, yeah, he's an arsehole. And then they were both just like, yeah, I can't believe it. And terrible, like really going into it. Somebody's obviously disagreed with that and just left it running. And then now posted it on social media. Don't know what the backlash for those two news anchors is going to be, though.
The thing is, he's obviously, played the game quite well in terms of getting into the country, because the idea that you have an exemption, okay, is not in place for someone to circumnavigate their way around getting vaccinated. The idea of an exemption is to say you cannot get vaccinated, and therefore we're going to give you an exemption. But he had 18 months to get vaccinated. And I'd love to know, like I say, there's many questions and much higher up than, but does he plan to get vaccinated? And if he does, why didn't he get vaccinated in the next 18 months? Or will he get vaccinated in the very near future? I'd love to know the answer to that question.
I just want to give a shout out to one of the new members we've had join the channel. We've got
cheers.
Victor. Appreciate that, Victor.
Thanks for that, Victor. Yeah, guys, if you want a chance to become a member of GTL, there is a little button under the video that says join, or it's on our main homepage of the channel. That'll give you some special features. You'll show up in some special colors in the live chat, which will highlight your comments so we can click them better. We'll give you shout outs when we see them, and you can get some little fun emojis that you can use that other people don't get access to, with a little JG head or a Ben head, or maybe we'll get a John Silk head on there at some point.
Yeah, you can slag us off then and actually put an emoji next to it.
That's it. It's like Ben talking.
All right, let's move on.
Yes, moving on. I forgot I was in charge of it then. So. Right. This one's Paul Sakau as well. It's saying Australian officials widened their investigation into Djokovic's visa to include a series of errors and discrepancies, his isolation breach, incorrect travel declaration, and inconsistent statements on when he learned of his positive test.
The first part of that, the isolation breach, surprises me that the 40, I presume that they're talking about the 48 hours after his positive test. I maybe that's the case and that they can include that in their investigation, but I was under the impression that wouldn't be relevant. But listen, maybe they can. But
I think it's a character thing, John. Though this is what I was saying. Like, go back to the judge. If it's the same judge that sort of looked upon the way he was treated,
I don't think we're going to see another case. We're not seeing this won't be another situation.
True.
I don't think.
Oh yeah,
I think
because it's the minister that decides now, isn't it?
That's the final call.
That's it, isn't it? Yeah. Sorry, we spoke about it in that yesterday's one. Apologies, I keep bringing up a judge. It would just be the minister,
as far as I know,
Home Affairs, who will
I've
decide.
heard the same as well. So
yeah,
that's right. Sorry, apologies for that. Don't want to give you misinformation of another trial. I don't want another trial. Stop with the trials, please.
He just wants another stream.
Yeah, God, I don't want another one of them.
We've got Tanya here from Australia saying, I live 20 minutes away from Rod Laver Arena and I can't get into the stadium without being vaccinated. Nole is not a citizen, not a resident, not vaxxed. Yeah,
that's an important point, actually. I think there are no exemptions for entering the stadium or working as an official or an umpire or whatever. There are no exemptions. It doesn't matter if you got COVID 3 months ago, 2 months ago, 5 months ago. It doesn't matter, whatever. You just have to be vaccinated.
Yeah, shout out to Hit God MB for being a new member, and Nikola Milinkovic as well. Great to have you on board, guys.
Cheers, guys. I know that we're sort of getting towards probably the end of this podcast, really. I think still we need to focus on, obviously, there's a lot of blame on Australia's side. We're not denying that. Australia are to blame. I saw like there was one quote from The Guardian. It was Russell Brand was even talking about this on his podcast. I was watching it earlier, so I thought it was just like a little summary of what they've done. It said so far, there is so far only one lesson in the acquittal of the tennis player Novak Djokovic on the charge of seeking to enter Australia unvaccinated. It is that something is badly wrong with that country's border controls. And I think that's one thing everyone can agree on.
Yeah. We'll leave on something everyone agrees on, and that is Australia's border controls. Whatever way you dress up Djokovic, the whole saga, everyone knows the border controls, they are shocking. Don't make sense, do they?
Out of controls.
Yeah.
I like it. It's a good place to finish, I think, that, John.
Yeah.
A little John Silk pun. Why not? Right. I was going to say, right, before we finish, though, guys, obviously, we've been speaking about the Australian Open a lot. We have a giveaway for Roland Garros, which is coming up. Obviously, that's the next slam after this. There's a giveaway of 2 Roland Garros tickets that go over 4 days at Roland Garros. And all you have to do is follow this little promo video, and that will tell you how to enter it. JG.
Yeah, and also the link's pinned in the live chat.
This time we're bringing you a giveaway. Roland Garros 2022. We have 2 grand public tickets going on offer, and you can be part of it.
Make sure you are subscribed to Game to Love. And secondly, follow the link to find out all of the ways you can enter. They include following us on Spotify, following on Twitter, joining the Patreon. That's another one where you get a few entries.
4 days at Roland Garros. That could be the final, the semi-final, the quarter-final.
To clarify, that is 2 tickets for 4 days at Roland Garros, seeing the very best tennis talent.
Yeah, so make sure that you get your entries in by the 31st of January 2022.
And good luck. May the best man or woman win. And hopefully we get to see you out in Paris very soon.
Oh, that's a tasty one, that one. Make sure you do get it's 31st of January, remember. You've got until to enter that one. There's no reason not to. It's free to enter. All you have to do is follow us on some social media platforms.
Yeah, last thing I want to do is put you both on the spot, actually, like I usually do in GTL fashion. I want a quick yes or no from you. Will Novak Djokovic play the Australian Open? You first, Ben.
No.
Ooh.
John?
Yes.
I think I'm going to go yes as well, but I'm very unsure.
We've taken a real turnaround. You've gone on the other side. I've swapped.
Listen, I think there's a high possibility it's going to be no, but I still think, I don't know, there's something about me that thinks it's going to be yes.
I've taken a sort of like a turnaround on that. After you're saying like they're trying to bolster all the case, there's part of me that thinks if the case gets very strong, I don't know.
Listen, I said it. I could have gone either way with my thing.
It's 50-50.
It's really tough to see. One thing we hope to see though is him at Roland Garros. Make sure to enter that giveaway if you're a big Djokovic fan, because you can see him there. Of course, Rafa fans as well. We're hoping to see him there. But yeah, thanks for watching, guys. If you haven't already, please hit the like button on this video. Join the members as well. Really helps the channel to grow and for us to continue bringing you these videos. And lastly, subscribe to Game to Love. We've got so much content planned. We're going to be covering the draw when it's released. We're also going to be doing qualifiers to watch soon as well. So there's only one place to be, and that's Game to Love. Thanks for joining us, John. And see you guys on the next one.
See you guys.
Novak Djokovic's visa has been revoked by the Australian government and issued with a letter saying he will be deported.
He tested positive on December 16. On the 1st of January, he'd met the requirements for quarantine-free travel. On January 4, Djokovic announced he was travelling to Australia. He was detained in Melbourne when he arrived the next day.
Players, fans and staff at the Australian Open must be fully vaccinated unless there is a genuine reason why an exemption should be granted.
If that evidence is insufficient, and he'll be on the next plane home.
Czech player Renata Vorochova. She arrived last month and played a warm-up tournament before her visa was cancelled.
We are not angry with the people of Australia. We are actually angry with their politicians.
They are keeping him as a prisoner. It's just not fair. It's not human.
People have been upset about the fact that Novak has come in because of his statements over the past couple of years around vaccination.
He knew the conditions since a lot of months ago.
So whether someone wants to get a vaccine or not, that's completely up to them.
Me that wasn't vaccinated, I wouldn't be getting an exemption.
There should be no special rules for Novak Djokovic at all.